Egypt didn't want the Palestinians. Nobody in the region wanted the Palestinians. The unspoken truth of the Arab Brotherhood is that the Palestinians don't really count and are disrespected. And Egypt said they can't come here because we have too many. Jordan said, we're like all Palestinians here. They can't come here. And that is the counter narrative.
Okay, I can answer that counter narrative.
Although Egypt did say early on, but we're not saying they can't. We're saying they shouldn't have to because they have a home.
You see, this is, again, one of the talking points that get repeated and people don't know the reality behind it. People say, like, Arab people do not accept Palestinians. First of all, there are 2.5 million Palestinians in Jordan already. There are 4,600 Palestinians in Lebanon already. There are 5,900 people in Syria already. Egypt, my wife has had like a refugee document. So we have many, but we don't count them. You know why? Because we don't treat them.
Basam Youssef sat across from an American host and did something you almost never see on Western television about this conflict. He did not argue feelings. He argued facts, population numbers, party platforms, and direct quotes from Israel's own founding documents and politicians. And at one point, he laid out the receipts so clearly that the host had to admit he was making a genuinely honest point. The question of why Arab countries do not simply take the Palestinians sounds like curiosity. Bassem showed exactly what function it actually serves. Let's watch this in full, and I'll give you my complete thoughts on the other side.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. We've already taken a lot, but when we take them, we basically allowing Israel to do what they want, which is evacuating the land from Israel. And the whole thing about like, we're killing them, why don't you take them, is like you going out in the street, shooting someone in the face, and you're angry at your neighbors for not burying him. It's crazy. It's like that you're basically blaming the people that don't want to take them, but you don't blame the side of the conflict that's doing the killing. It's madness. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. I also don't think...
And also for Israel, I'm Israeli. Let's say some miracle. Egypt says today, all right, well, let's take them. 2.2 million people goes into the Sinai. They have access to the sea. What do you think these 2.2 million, they're going to just sit there? They're going to retaliate, try to come back. They're going to have the sea open for them now. They're going to have Israel like controlling. This is going to be the Egyptian problems. And then they're going to have weapons. They're going to have an open desert in the Sinai. Is this safer for Israel?
Right. Everywhere is like Yemen.
Now you're going to create like a very, very unstable focus that's not going to be good for Egypt, nor good for Israel. So it's not even. So it's not. Here's the thing. Do you notice how the pro-Israeli people talk about the West Bank? They say Judea and Samaria, aka West Bank. Judea and Samaria, aka West Bank. They are already changing it.
Yeah.
Because if they can do that to 2.2 million people in Gaza, in a few years from now, they're going to find another Hamas in West Bank. And they're going to bomb the West Bank.
Hamas is growing in popularity in the West Bank now because of what's happening there.
Of course. Enemy of my enemy is my hero. Okay? And the thing is, you have already the 3.5 people, they have no rights. The land is being taken away from, like a Jewish person from Poland can land in Israel, take a land of a Palestinian that's been living there for 600 years. Doesn't make any sense. So, and now they're going to push people into Jordan. It's like, why doesn't Jordan take them? Why doesn't Saudi Arabia take them? And here's the thing about my relationship with Israel. Growing up, I had absolutely no problem with Israel. Of course, they are our enemies. We fought 4 wars with them. But I was one of those people who really liked Sadat for doing the peace process. Because, and I know that we were like, we dealt short. The negotiation was bad. Kissinger was like a master. But at the end of the day, we took Sinai and peace. No more war. No more war. No more. But please, anything. Let's have whatever compromise, but no more war. So I have no problem with Israel existing. And when people's like, Israel's like, where are you going to take? There's like, there 9 million people. Where are they going to go? It's complicated. And a lot of people hate me for having this very centrist, but I said, I was practical. But then I see those people who have a lot of people in the Arab world acknowledging their existence. Okay, have used it. They're not acknowledging other people's existence. They're not acknowledging the Palestinians. They're even becoming to question my existence as an Egyptian. Because now you see, I'm not talking about like people on Facebook, I'm talking about official ministers. They are going there in rallies and having the greater Israel map behind them. What does that tell you? From the Nile to the Euphrates, they're basically swallowing 8 Arab countries, half of Egypt, half of Iraq, all of Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, parts of Saudi Arabia, and parts of Turkey. So when you get me that, wait, I've been accepting you all your life, and now you are accepting me. So I want to tell the Israelis, I want to tell the people who say that Israel, the Jewish people have more right in this land, more the Palestinian. I have one question for them. Explain to me why is that so without using religion.
Without using religion?
Yeah.
I understand the point.
Because what do they say? Because like God gave it to us. Which God? We are the chosen one. Chosen by whom? It's a promised land. Promised by whom? Your God. It's not my God.
I don't think any of it should be based on religion.
But here's the thing. All of like the liberal Zionists, I'm talking about the liberal Zionists now, who like support Israel. This like we are secular, we're democratic, we separation of church and state. And when it talks about Israel, it's biblical. All of a sudden, it's biblical.
Well,
it's because of the Holocaust. What did we have to do with it?
No, it's not just because of the Holocaust. It's because when the issue becomes whether people want Jewish people to exist, Israel to exist, you're making it existential. And what does make them different is their faith. And as an extension of that, the blood of people in that faith. And, from the river to the sea scares.
Of course,
people.
but you know who came up with this?
What, Israel?
Yeah, the Likud Party chart in 1977. Haven't you read it?
But it's not who's using it now.
You wanna hear it? It says like this:
the
rights of the Jewish people in the land of Israel is eternal and indisputable, and it is important for it connects to the right of our peace and security. Therefore, Judea and Samaria will never be handed to a foreign administration. From the sea to the Jordan, there will only be Israeli sovereignty. We just make it rhyme better.
You make it rhyme better. But it's like...
Have you read it? But the thing is, this is what Israel does. They do stuff and they project it on you. Those people who are chanting from the river to the sea, Palestinian, and you can't blame the people for chanting for them because they're desperate. They don't have a superpower supporting them. They don't have the international media supporting them. And all of them can see, and they go and shout and they chant in the streets, but the official charter of Israel, the official people, they're talking about from the rivers to the sea, Greater Israel. So how can you compare people in the streets or Facebook by the official stand of the Israeli government?
Israel is not trying to expand its borders into Turkey and Iraq, and that's not going to happen. Okay.
Well, we thought. We thought that Gaza was not going to happen, and we thought that that the illegal settlement would not expand that much.
This has been happening since Israel was formed, in one way or another.
Okay.
And I believe it's a situation where the problem has always worked better than any solution. Kind of like our southern border. Things that frighten people, things that keep people divided, things that keep people angry are a very good control mechanism. Yes. And I always have wondered when I've worked in that part of I was talking to somebody about you today, and they were like, you got to talk to him all about his medical career and how he feels about it. I said, I get it. If you focus on healing and what matters for people, what you're doing with laughter, what you're doing with instructive humor, what you're doing with satire is so powerful. And it can be healing. I think the dialogue is healing. Look,
I'm loving this. Because
it's easy for me to have the conversation, though, because I'm not emotionally and personally invested the way you are and the way Jewish people are. I have a lot of Jews in my life. I have Jews in my family. But I have Arabs in my life. I have Muslims in my life. I don't have them in my family, as far as I know. But it doesn't matter to me. But it's easier for me to have the conversation. I don't have blood on the line the way other people do. And I respect that. A lot of Americans don't. They believe they can own an issue even though they have no part of it. Some people with more extended value than others. Like, I understand why Black people have an affinity to seeing minorities oppressed in other places of the world. I understand that. I understand why they would see commonality. I get it. And I think it's important to engage it. I do think that a lot of the explanations have their place, but are also a distraction from the present. Like, Blinken is over there. Israel just said no to the latest. I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but it'll probably be true 5 times between now and whenever this ends, whatever that means. That Israel's saying, no. This phase deal, it's too long. We're not getting enough. I don't understand how this ends in a way. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how it ends at all.
Well, again, we
I don't even know what happens.
You asked a question. I told you go back to the root of the problem, like we do in medicine, and I'm telling you, you do an incredible job because I've watched you many times. You have an ability. You're an empath. You put yourself in other people's shoes so you can understand, and I respect that about you. You're a big empath. You're empathic with people, and sometimes when I tell people put yourself into the other people's shoes, and someone who does that beautifully is Gideon Levy, the Israeli reporter.
Yeah,
wonderful,
he is good.
Wonderful, and he's very fair. He's an Israeli reporter in the house, and he's very fair. And sometimes when because it seems that for so long, and I'm sorry to say this, people don't want to hear anything from the Arab side, so I use Israeli quotes. And one of my favorite quotes, believe it or not, is by Ben Gurion, the George Washington of Israel. He said, and this is a quote from the book The Jewish Paradox by Nahum Goldman. He said, "If I was an Arab leader, I would not sign an agreement with Israel. It's natural. We took their land. I mean, yes, God promised it to us, but our God is not theirs. Why would they accept it? Why would that mean anything to us? Yes, there was anti-Semitism, Nazis, the Jews, Auschwitz, but why would they pay for it? We are coming here to take their land, and you do not accept it." That is a direct quote by the founder of Israel. And he, in another speech, 1938, he said, let's be true to ourselves. Politically, we are the oppressors, and they defend themselves. We're coming here to inhabit, and they're already here. And then he said something mind-blowing. He said, behind the terrorism by Arabs is a movement, though primitive, but yet it is not the voice of idealism and self-sacrifice. I can just take those two quotes and put it in front of everybody. Somebody will say Hamas, I will tell them Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu, 2019, in the Likud Party, said in order to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state, someone should bolster Hamas, give them money. We've been doing that. That's been our strategy. So I don't understand the cognitive dissonance that people get me like Hamas, October 7th. And guys, don't you see what you're doing?
There's a continuum.
Like in 2001, in the video with Netanyahu, I'm sure you've seen that video when they say I have sabotaged the Oslo Accords. He was proud of it, and he was just dissing America.
And quotes from him when he's younger on television saying, "No, I don't think that there's a right to a Palestinian state."
So you see all of that, and people say it's the Palestinian fault. So when you push people for a certain limit, when you continue to dealing people like animals, they will behave.
Let's start with the why don't Arab countries take them question, because Basam Youssef identified exactly what it does and why. The machine keeps it in rotation. It sounds like curiosity. It functions as permission. If the neighbors are the problem, the bombs are not. Every time an anchor asks that question without challenging its premise, they are pointing the audience toward a conclusion that the displacement is someone else's responsibility to solve rather than something that should not be happening. Bassem answered it directly. There are already 2.5 million Palestinians in Jordan, hundreds of thousands in Lebanon, in Syria, in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, in Kuwait. The Arab world has already absorbed enormous Palestinian populations. The argument that they simply refuse to accept Palestinians does not survive contact with the actual population numbers. And then he made the comparison that cuts through the entire framing. You are going out into the street, shooting someone in the face, and then getting angry at your neighbors for not burying him. That is what the take them argument actually describes. It places the moral responsibility for displacement on the people who did not cause it, while removing accountability from the party doing the displacing. Bassem did not say this with anger. He said it like a doctor describing a diagnosis, which is fitting because his entire approach in this conversation is to go back to the root of the problem rather than managing the symptoms. The Likud platform point is the one that deserves to be heard clearly because it gets dismissed as a talking point when it is actually a documented political platform. The 1977 Likud Party charter states that the right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is eternal and indisputable, and that Judea and Samaria will never be handed to a foreign administration, and that from the sea to the Jordan there will only be Israeli sovereignty. That is not a protest chant. That is an official party document. And Bassem's point is sharp. When people chanting from the river to the sea in the streets get condemned for that phrase, while the official governing party platform contains functionally equivalent language, the selective outrage reveals the actual function of the condemnation. Then there is Netanyahu's 2019 statement, reported by Israeli press in Hebrew, telling his own lawmakers that moving money to Hamas was a strategy to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state, that a divided Palestinian leadership between Hamas in Gaza and Fatah in the West Bank made a two-state solution impossible to negotiate. This is not conspiracy. This is Netanyahu's own words in his own language, reported by Israeli journalists. Bassem's point about cognitive dissonance is correct. You cannot cite Hamas on October 7th as the justification for everything that followed while also defending a policy that its own architect described as a tool for keeping Hamas in power. The host at one point asked the only genuinely honest question in the segment, how does this end? That was in 2024. It is now 2026, and we have a partial answer. A ceasefire took effect October 2025. Phase 1 exchanged hostages for detainees. Phase 2 is supposed to cover reconstruction and demilitarization. Both sides accuse each other of violations while strikes continue intermittently. That is what an ending looks like when the root cause is never addressed. Not a resolution, a pause with a countdown on it. And the financial number that nobody said out loud at that desk deserves to be stated clearly. The Brown University Costs of War Project published a tally covering American military aid to Israel from October 2023 through September 2025, $21.7 billion. In 2017 alone, the highest single year since aid of this type began. That money left American taxpayers' accounts while people were on hold with their insurance companies, while rents went up, while senators explained that the budget was too tight for this program or that one. The budget is never tight in the direction of weapons. Remember that. The next time someone tells you what this country cannot afford, and here is the number that tells you something fundamental is shifting. Gallup released a poll in February 2026. For the first time in 25 years of asking, more Americans sympathize with Palestinians than with Israelis. 41 to 36. From 2001 to 2018, Israel led that same poll by an average of 43 points. The shift was driven by independents, not activists, not a party machine, regular people who watched footage on their own, phones that cable news would not air, and decided their own eyes outranked the script they were being handed. Basam Youssef came to that conversation with the receipts and the precision of someone who goes back to root causes before prescribing treatment. The host who asked how it ends was asking the right question. The machine keeps asking the wrong ones because the wrong ones protect the system that produces the outcomes. We keep watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification. I'll see you in the next one.